to be with the Alpha Toastmasters, and I want to begin by commending you for being a part of this great organization that was started in 1924, just 18 years after our great fraternity was founded December the 4th, 1906 at Cornell University. And I think it's very much appropriate that we would, as we celebrate the founding of our great fraternity, also do this in collaboration with the Alpha Toastmasters. Tonight, I'd like to talk with you for just a moment. And in talking with Brother Wilkerson, I'd like to use a part of your Toastmasters format, also the impromptu questions, because I believe that it's also beneficial when brothers can share comments and questions among with each other, but then also your speaker for the evening. What I'd like to do tonight is to talk about public speaking, the importance of it, the value and the critical importance of leadership, and the combination of the two. From the exception of our founding, I'd like to draw upon a quote from Jewel Henry Arthur Callis that he gave in August of 1956, and I think it's a foundation for our discussion tonight. And I quote, "The Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity was organized to stimulate and unite promising young men for leadership in the extension of American democracy in all fields, the fields of social and public service, the church, the lay, education, the medical profession, labor, the press, have all been molded by the leadership of these men." And then we all know the mission statement of our great fraternity that has defined this organization and men who have been so privileged to wear the letters of Alpha Phi Alpha for 117 years. Alpha Phi Alpha develops leaders, promotes brotherhood and academic excellence while providing service and advocacy for our communities. Without a doubt, the fraternity has understood, its members have always understood the importance of great oration. And it is not oration simply for self-grandizement, but oration and public speaking is an affirmation of intellectual stimulation and capacity for the betterment of society. I just want to cite one example for our discussion tonight, and that would be around attorney and past General President Belford Vance Lawson Jr. Belford Lawson, born in Virginia, educated at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, went on to become one of the preeminent civil rights attorneys in this country, having been initiated at Epsilon Chapter. It was his oration and his intellectual capacity that he served as the first African-American man, first of all, as we all hold our motto, first of all, to be the first African-American man to win a case before the United States Supreme Court. He went on to serve as the chief executive legal mind for many civil rights cases, oration, and public speaking on behalf of others. The foundation of our fraternity has always been that we must use our voice for the voiceless and to speak out to help others. I believe that your participation in the Alpha Toastmasters is a confirmation and reaffirmation of the purpose of our fraternity, that you are going to use your voice to help those that have no voice. And so that is the mission. How should we do that? I think we all know great orators and great men of Alpha like Brother Dr. Martin Luther King, who used his voice for those who were oppressed and did not have access to democracy. And also Brother Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who used both his oration and his research and his scholarship for the betterment of society. It was Brother W.E.B. Du Bois in 1919 that began the Pan-African movement in Paris that brought people together. So globally, Alpha men have had an impact through not only their voice, but their advocacy and their determination to serve as public servants, but also serve as public spokespersons for all people, but especially for people of African descent. So I believe that as we celebrate our 117th anniversary of the founding of this fraternity, now more than ever before, when the very question of the American democracy is at question here. It was in the 1930s that this fraternity founded an organization, a committee that said we are going to affirm democracy through the right to vote. So a voteless people is a hopeless people. And now as the right to vote is being challenged in all parts of the country, we must use our voice as alpha men in every hamlet where we are to make certain that the fundamental equalizer in democracy is preserved. It doesn't matter how much money you earn a year, but the true equalizer is the right to vote. So I want to commend you, members of the Alpha Toastmasters, for your work, for what you're doing now. And I challenge you, along with myself, to use what you have gained here through your developmental process to then continue to be spokespersons for the communities where you find yourself, both in written and oral communications. Because I think a critical part of communications is not only the spoken word, but it is also the written word. And we must use every form of communications that is before us as alpha men. That is our legacy, and that is what we must continue to be about. And I know that you will do it. We must do it. I will always do it until the last breath is out of my body, that we must speak up and speak out for those who have no voice in this society. So with that, Brother Presiding Officer, I will now move to your impromptu question format and open the portal for the usage of questions that your members may have of me.
And thank you, brother. How much time, because we want to respect your time, how much time would you allow us to
I'm
answer
willing
the
to
question?
give you as much time as you'd like to ask questions. I believe in what you're doing, so I certainly want to give you as much time and your members as you'd like.
Brothers, how about 10 minutes? Would that be good so that, he respects and gets back to his night? All right, brother, timer, just keep us posted for 10 more minutes of questions. I do have one question. You brought up brother W.E.B. Du Bois, and
Yes.
he can't, he coined or developed the term the talented 10th, that
Yes.
responsibility of leaders to lead. Now, I don't know, there's some critiques of how timely that is, but what is that notion of leadership to lead the masses, if you think that is still applicable today, of, brothers of distinction still being the leaders in the forefront of advocacy and leadership for a mass of people?
I'm in full agreement with that. I think oftentimes there are some individuals who have misrepresented the original intent of what Dr. Du Bois, as well as the founders of this fraternity. If you look at the jewels in their writings and documentation in our archives, it was always the foundation of the fraternity and Dr. Du Bois that to whom much is given, much is required. And so the concept was for, remember that
I always forget that part.
in
Still waiting
1906,
for replacement.
in 1906, there were less than 1% of African American people who were exposed to a college education. Therefore, Dr. Du Bois believed that for those of us who are given the privilege and the opportunity. We must never forget that it was against the law for our ancestors to even read or write. So after the Civil War and the vast development of historically Black colleges in the South, because remember that it was Cheney University in 1837 that was the only Black institution for people to go to school for higher education. So after the Civil War, it was then that those schools were open. So when Du Bois went to Fisk University coming out of Massachusetts, leaving the North, coming to the South to go to school, he believed, as our Jules believed, that for those of us who were privileged to have access to higher education must then return and help uplift the entire community. And that was the Talented 10. Because if you will remember, the Jules, most of the Jules were from Washington, D.C., New York, and other places. But what was the first thing that they did after the founding? They went to Howard University to set up Beta Chapter because they understood that if we are going to be a fraternity of, remember what they said, scholarship, leadership, and service, and that sequential order was clear. We are scholars, we are leaders, and after that, we have to give service. And so I believe that that's the foundation of the Talented 10. And I think that's why Du Bois became an honorary member of Epsilon chapter and then understood that he would be an active part of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity until his death.
Thank you so much. I see that we had, I think, Brother Peters, and then after Brother Peters, we have Brother Gilmore. But Brother Peters?
Brother Dr. Ward, so nice to see you again.
Good to see you, brother.
All right. And a question that I had was, how or do you see possibilities where, granted, Alpha Toastmasters 1906 is very important for alpha men in order to develop their capacity to be able to speak extemporaneously and also to be able to be more effective in their ability to write prose and other forms of writing as needed. How may Alpha Toastmasters 1906 dovetail into other alpha-related organizations, perhaps some that you are affiliated with or you may have started on your own? I recall that there was something that you were working with in another capacity back in late September. Are there any synergies, perhaps, between those two groups?
Are you referring to the Alpha PAC, the Alpha Political Action Committee?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think there are opportunities there, and I think there are two things, and that's why I accepted this invitation readily, is because we have, of course, the Belford Lawson Oratorical Contest, where we are encouraging young brothers, collegiate brothers, to have and gain an appreciation for oration and delivery. But what I appreciate about the Alpha Toastmasters, you're dealing with alumni brothers who also need to master the art of public speaking for the delivery of service in our respective communities. So I think this is a continuation and something that could be used. Now, with regard to the Alpha PAC, there's always any candidate that is seeking public office must master public speaking and being in a position to share his or her vision. And I'm going to emphasize his vision in this setting, is that he must be in a position to articulate his vision, not only to gain the support of potential constituents, but then once he is elected, he must have the ability to give oration, both let's just use the example of a city council or on the floor of the state legislature or the halls of Congress. You've got to be in a position to bring people to the side of your particular issue. So that is